Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are live with our second day of Diverse SecCon, and we have our first keynote with us, Anant Shrivastava. He's an information security professional with over 14 years of corporate experience in network, mobile, application, and Linux security. During his career, he has been a speaker and a trainer at various international conferences, naming Black Hat USA, Asia, Europe, Nalcon, Cookon, and many more. Anant also leads open source projects Android Tamer and Code Vigilant. He also maintains an archive portal, which is Hacking Archives of India. In his free time, he likes to participate in open communities or open source communities targeting towards spreading information security knowledge such as null. His work can be found at ananttree.info. Thank you so much, Anant, for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you with us.
Thanks a lot, Vandana. It was a nice introduction. I'm lucky to be here.
Thank you so much. You've been my mentor and you've been a mentor to so many people. Thank you for sharing all the wonderful inputs earlier. And today we are looking forward to your presentation. So I'll just give the stage to you, and the stage is all yours.
All right. Let me just. Okay, so let's start. So, welcome everyone, wherever you are. Like Vandana said, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on your time zone. So, before I start with the keynote, just a quick introduction about myself. Like Vandana mentioned, about 13 years plus of corporate experience, about 15 years of teaching experience. I run my own projects, Android Tamer, which is very much focused around uh, creating a Linux based environment where uh, any individual related to Android security can do whatever they want to do with it. So we started with just creating a virtual machine environment. Then we progressed on, and right now we are kind of metamorphosizing it into a project where we are having a live Linux machine. We are having a repository for tools. We're trying to build an emulator which has pre-configured setups for you. We're also working on creating an Android application repository and a knowledge base. Now, segue from Android Tamer, there's another project that I run called Code Vigilant. Now, with Code Vigilant, the aim was to basically learn the art of source code analysis. And for that, what I basically ended up doing was looking at a environment. So I, along with a couple of my friends, basically do source code analysis. We did a major round in 2014 when we looked at WordPress plugins and found about 300 different vulnerabilities. And now, 2021, we've restarted it again, looking at WordPress ecosystem, and have been finding a large number of vulnerabilities in the WordPress environment. I think about 40, 50 SQL injections we have already disclosed, and we are in the process of finding more. Now, I started back in around 2008 with my corporate experience. Back in those days, it was not very popular to be in the InfoSec space. However, a lot of people have been actively working in InfoSec space, and very few of us were aware of people from India who were working in InfoSec space and basically being publicly present and vocal about things that they were doing. And that's kind of the way which led to Hacking Archives of India. And this is a website where I basically catalog various public speakers who have presented at different high profile conferences, and over the years, how have been their journey. Now, with that aside, I was thinking about, when asked to do a keynote at InfoSecCon, what should be my presentation be about? And what I realized was, with the diverse set of experience that I've had, it would be interesting to provide my own two pesas around the InfoSec world, where it was, where it is, and how things are moving across. For those of you who are not aware, pesa is equivalent to cent. So this is my two pesas about InfoSec world. Now, before I get started with the actual presentation, there's one thing that we have to understand, and I'm just going to put it out in one word. InfoSec is not equal to hacking. We generally intermingle these two words. We intermingle InfoSec with hacking, hacking with infosec, these are two separate words with two separate meanings and two separate ideologies behind them. I'll quickly talk about hacking. Now, when we talk about hacking, hacking is not about profession, it's passion. When you talk about that someone is doing hacking, they're not after money, they're not after regulations, they're not after I can save the world with it or I can save a corporate environment with it. Hacking is about that rush that you get when you do something that is not expected from the environment. When an environment is provided to an individual, the general idea that goes is, hey, these are the 5 things that you can do with this environment. A normal individual will go ahead and say, okay, yeah, these are the 5 things I want to do with this environment. But a hacker would start thinking, okay, these are the 5 things that I can do. What extra? What can I do to make this system do something which it is not supposed to do? Here, the idea is not about ethics. It's not about the whether it's good or bad. The idea is to explore the limits of a system, to understand the system in such a deep manner that you can explore and exploit the boundaries of that system. Now, I've referred an article. There's a image on the side of the what do you say presentation, and I've given the reference available on frec.org. This is a very old article. I think this predates my existence also. So this was written even before I was born. And this article is called "The Conscience of a Hacker" or Hacker's Manifesto. And if you are interested in being a hacker, if you are fascinated by the term hacker, I would definitely recommend looking at this. Try and read that manifest and try and understand the ideas by which the hacking culture came into existence, why people say hacking is different from infosec. And on the other side, understand this: most of us who are right now in the infosec space are here because we were at one point into the hacking culture. And then we realized, yes, there could be money in it, there could be profession in it, there could be a career path in it. That's why we moved into infosec space. But believe me when I say this, infosec is not hacking. It is not just hacking. There's so much more to it. Which brings me to the point, infosec industry. Now, infosec industry is a bigger game than hacking itself. However, it's still not the most dominant thing in the world. Infosec is part of the business operations. If there's a business that is supposed to run, infosec or security operations or security in general is a small cogwheel in the entire process. It is a subset of list of stuff that the business has to do. You can, and there are multiple businesses that operate at least for some time without having infosec in them. They may not be able to operate successfully for a very long time, but they can definitely start operating without having infosec in it. Whereas if you take out other pieces of the business, they may not even be able to function. So infosec is an important part because of the way the world is, the security threats that we have. Infosec is becoming prominent. It is an important piece of the puzzle, but it's not the entire puzzle. And that's something all of us needs to understand. When we talk about infosec, we talk as if we are the top species, everyone needs to listen to us. But effectively, when you look at it from a developer or from someone who is not part of the infosec space, I've given a picture on the side. That's kind of what infosec professionals look like to them. That, hey, I saved your city. Would you help cleaning up the city? Nah, that's not my job. You deal with it. And that's effectively what is an angle that I'm going to talk about a bit more. Within the infosec space, there is offensive infosec, there is defensive set of people. The job roles are offense and defense. Now, the offense subsection is very loud, but they are not the only part of the puzzle again. The defense set is actually much more important in the picture. The purpose of offense in InfoSec is to facilitate the defense so that they can do their job. So effectively, in the long list of things, for the business, InfoSec is a small space. Within InfoSec, red is a small space. Blue is supposed to be helped by red, and then the world runs. What we see in general is people becoming blocker in the whole process. And that is why I say, be an enabler, not a blocker. So when you are stepping into InfoSec world, think about how you can help the business run. Instead of saying, hey, I don't want you to do this because this is risky, try and figure out how it is that they reach the goal that they want to reach. Instead of worrying about, hey, if you do this, there is a problem. Try and help individuals, organizations achieve the goal that they want to achieve. For this, you need to create allies. You have to collaborate with people instead of trying to alienate people. And this is kind of what happens when an InfoSec person goes on a rampage about, hey, I am doing all things right, you are not helping me, or the world does not understand security. We can keep talking about all of that. It is interesting to talk about it. It's good to talk about this. But in all honesty, it does not help anyone. If you want to help the world move forward, help them move forward. And while I was trying to piece together the slide deck, this one link from Tristan Brager was one of the most prominent link that came up, which kind of gave me the difference between security is not just hacking. There are so many pieces of puzzle. Hacking or offensive side of the equation is just a small part. You tell that a flaw exists. What after that? How do I monitor if the flaw is exploited? How do I go about fixing the flaws? What can I do so that someone cannot touch that system? If someone does touch that system, how can I contain them? There's a whole lot of policies, procedures, setups, operation centers, bunch of different things that are there, which are not offensive in nature, which are defensive in nature. And they're all part of the information security space. Now, with that, there is one thing that we keep hearing about. We keep hearing about skill shortage in the industry. Now, I have a slightly different take on it, and I'm going to talk about the hiring strategies in a minute. But before I go there, a quick pointer around InfoSec industry. I'm quite sure anyone who has been in InfoSec space for at least maybe 3 years or so would have had one of their relatives or people that know that they are in InfoSec space approach them and talk about their children's, talk about their relatives or people who are just getting graduated, asking them about, hey, this seems like an interesting field. How can I make money in this field? How can I be an InfoSec professional? And this is an important turn that has happened. From an industry which was passion driven, people were here because they wanted to be here. This industry is now a multi-million-dollar money-making industry. People are getting attracted because the pay scales are way too high compared to other jobs, which means you have people here who want to just do their job, who want to work. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's the first thing InfoSec industry right now needs to understand, accept. It is not wrong to be in this industry if all you want to do is make money. If all you want to do is 9 to 5 job, that is going to be the ground reality. People are going to be only here for 9 to 5 jobs. People are going to be here because they want to make money. They may not be here for passion. For industry, we need to accept that this is a reality and act accordingly. For employees of people who are interested in joining this, they need to understand that there are two aspects of InfoSec space. There is money aspect, there's passion aspect. You figure out what do you want to deal with. Do you want to make money, and more money, or do you want to be in infosec space for passion? Both of them would have their own individual set of compromises, and based on that, you would move forward. Now, like I said, offense is a very small subsection of the larger scheme of infosec industry. All of us need to start giving credit to defense so that defense also becomes a prominent factor. There are so many jobs in the defense space which don't even get a mention, and people are not even aware of them. When you go ahead and talk with any individual right now, those who are interested in getting into infosec space, their first response would be, hey, I've heard about bug bounties. I can get paid for finding flaws. Yeah, you'll get paid far more also if you are employed at patching systems or securing systems. You may not get the limelight, and this is the tricky part. You don't get the limelight because you're helping fix the environment, and that is something that we might want to change around. We might want to give the defenders their due credit, that yes, there are defenders who are helping the world, and because of which we have environments which are not hacked, or environments which are secure. May not have 100% security, but more than what is there compared to the other environments. Now, when we talk about infosec professionals, there is an interesting aspect that comes up from industry side, where there's a requirement of certifications, that you should have X certificate, you should have Y certificate. We only hire people who have OSCP, OSCE, CISSP, CISA, and bunch of these keywords. My question is, do you really need those certificates? If you really need those certificates, how about hiring people whom you see that they can clear those exams, put them on your payroll, pay them, and then get them upskilled on those certificates? If you want someone to have OSCP, you test their skill set. And if you feel that they are good enough to get OSCP, instead of asking them that, hey, get OSCP and then I'll hire you, hire them, give them time to give that exam. Once they're done with the exam, reimburse that cost. And then you've got someone who is skilled, who has the certification, and you've got someone who's at the cutting edge. So don't bottleneck your hiring process because a certain certificate is not there. Now, while talking about the hiring process, there's an interesting aspect that happens. And I think this picture came up a few days ago, and it kind of summarizes the current world. When we do the technical interviews, we are doing Kong versus Godzilla. But at the actual job, we're basically just asking them to do some very simple jobs. And this is what, as an interviewer, as the organization, we need to relook at ourselves. One, people are going to be here for money, not for passion. You got to accept that. With that in mind, you're looking for people who can get the job done. You're not looking for excellent people, or you're not looking for people with passion only to join your companies. You're looking for people who can get the job done. If all you want to get done from an analyst is that they go to a web interface, log in with a credential, click start scan, copy paste a bunch of IP addresses, watch the screen as the scan runs, and then pass on the results to the next analyst. If that's what the job role is, then hire people who can do that job well. And then if you feel like you want them to do more job, train them up. Within your job environment, train them up for more work. But don't hire for your fancies. Hire for the work that you want them to do. And I'm not saying that there are not going to be a Kong versus Godzilla situations and an actual job. Yes, there are going to be. And for those jobs, definitely go ahead and do those kind of technical interviews, hire people. But what I'm talking about is try and maintain a balance between what you are interviewing them for versus what you're asking them to do in their daily job. Now, this is where an interesting aspect comes up. I've seen a lot of scenarios where organizations basically start asking, hey, I see that you've done jobs for like 4 years, 5 years. What have you done outside work? I'm looking to understand, are you really interested in this industry? And again, going back to the statement, there may be people who are, there may be people who are just doing a 9 to 5 job. They may be good at what job that they're doing, but they may not want to do anything after their job. And that's fine. You test them for the skill set that they have. If you are an organization who's only looking for passion, who does not want to hire people who are doing 9 to 5 jobs, then don't come back and say there is a skill shortage, because yes, there are going to be shortage. People with passion are going to be far less compared to the people available in the market who are interested in getting a job. Again, relook at what you are making people to do. If you are asking people to do X as their job, you hire for that role, maybe X plus one. But you don't go ahead and hire for Z and never ask them in their entire span in your company to do that extra job. That's a disservice to you. That's a disservice to the industry. That's a disservice to the employee. All of us suffer because of that. So when you say you have skill shortage, be very clear, what exactly are you looking for? Do you really have shortage, or is it just that you are over expecting from people and you may not even have the requirements of that high caliber? Now, another interesting take, and this is something that has come up from my experience with Hacking Archives of India. Now, when you spend enough time in the industry, you start spotting people who know their own craft, who know what is it that takes the that makes the clock tick. And what I realized, yes, a large chunk of them are public speakers. A large chunk of them actually do go ahead and talk in conferences about their work, about their experiences. But an equally large number of them don't even touch conference circuits. They don't want to do anything with public life. They do immense work. They do complicated stuff which make me feel like I am an infant who has no understanding of what's going on. Even after spending about 20 years working with Linux, when I talk with these people, they make me feel like I need to go and read up about how Linux actually works. Or after teaching 7 years the uh, classes around infrastructure hacking, I know people who can basically make me feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about within the infrastructure space. So judging by public work is not going to be the only qualifier here. When you are trying to hire a person, try to gauge them, ask them questions which help you understand their level of skills. A very quick question that I generally ask people is, pick up an example from your career which you're very passionate about, that you did a very good job, and give me as much detail as you want to give about what did you do, without naming the client, without naming the actual incidents. Give me as many details as you want about that particular instance, and that gives me the ideas whether this person actually knows what they're doing or not. I can ask follow-up questions, I can discuss about it. It's something that they've already done, so they'd be open and receptive about it. And I want to explore what is it that they know, and if they know what they're talking about, I'd be interested in hiring them. So about hiring, hire for the work that you have, not for the fancies that you have, that this person needs to do X, this person needs to do Y, and they should be able to crack open the entire world and should be able to compromise the entirety of internet and every single street light across the globe. If you're not going to let them do it, don't try hunting for people like that. I've had scenarios where organizations basically look for people who can do red teaming work. And then when the job comes and they say, hey, I found an SQL injection, they're like, don't exploit. Just give a bare minimum POC, write a report, and that's it. You're not supposed to exploit them. If you did not wanted the people to exploit and move forward, why even look for those kind of people? Let organizations that actually need that kind of people hire those people. You work with the set of people who can get that job done. And this is something which all of us, the employees, the employers, organizations, all of us have to understand. There is a bit of skill shortage, but most of it is because we are over expecting from people and we are not even willing to give people a chance. With that said, an interesting aspect that has recently come up, COVID 19. And with COVID 19 coming into picture, the world has changed. We've moved from being fully in office to being fully remote, and the world has been running. The organizations that used to say that, hey, we are not going to let you work from your home, have basically opened up VPNs for people to work from their home, and not just from their cities, but from their hometowns. People have migrated back to their hometowns and they're working from there. Now, this is where all of us need to understand, accept this, and try and figure out how we can make the most of this. I'll take an example of India. India has a certain set of metro cities where most of the IT industry is situated. If we take those cities out of the equation, there's a large space available within the country. There are many people who cannot travel to those cities and get a job. But if you look at diversification, not just in terms of gender or skill set and those parameters which everyone has been talking about, but also look at diversification from the angle of location. Don't limit yourself to a tier 1 city or a tier 2 city. What about tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities? Cities which allow, and within the countries, most of the countries now have good enough infrastructure which allows you to operate with a laptop and an internet connection. I'm not going to go far. I'm going to look at my own example. I am operating from a city called Bhopal, and I've been operating here since 2016. I started with a 4 Mbps connection. I'm right now sitting at a 1 Gbps connection. The world changed over time. But more importantly, even with a 4 Mbps connection and a laptop at my place, I was able to operate and do my job. Why can't we have more and more people doing that? And just to put things into perspective, my organization has been remote first from day one. 2015 is when we formed the organization. We started working on getting more people in and expanding the whole scope. Since 2015 till now, we are 100% remote organization. We've been able to run things. We've been able to do pen tests. We've been able to develop trainings. We've been able to deliver pen test projects. We've been able to deliver trainings, both on-site, off-site, all of it without asking people to be at one location all the time. That's an important aspect that employers got to understand, that you have access to an untapped potential. If you start looking at markets which are tier 2 and tier 3 cities, you will find talent which is just sitting there because they don't have access to resources, because you are not going there hiring people. Similar to organizations focusing only on, say, IIT, IIM, and not hiring from anywhere else. Look at other colleges, look at other cities, try and hunt for the talent, and then groom them up. Work with them. You will find a large potential there. Another angle that employers now need to understand, what I've seen when any hiring practices goes on, the general flow is a technical interview happens, a current salary is asked, and then the HR steps in and does this weird calculation around, hey, you are earning X. I can only offer you a 30% hike over your current salary or 40% hike over your current salary. Instead of doing that, focus on what do you want the person to do. For that kind of a role, what are you willing to pay? Don't worry about what they're earning right now. Create brackets. create brackets for roles, create brackets for responsibilities, and offer them up. That, hey, for your skill set, this is the bracket where you fall. I'm going to pay you somewhere between this number. So let's say 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs. That's the range between which your salary would come up. It could be on the lower end, it could be on the higher end, but it'll remain within this till you show us more talent, till you show us more work, and we promote you to the next tier. Give that out to the uh, employees or prospective employees and have a fair discussion around it. Implement remote first policies. When I say remote first policies, I'm not just talking about, hey, our company is remote first. We courier you a laptop, we ask you to have an internet, we ask you to have power backup, and you're all set. No, remote first policies are much more than that. You have to account for people working in different hours, to people working in asynchronous mode, to informing a larger set of audience who are not in one place. So you can't basically just call up one person and tell them something, or do a group call and tell something and not follow it up with an email. Try and be remote first, which basically means do emails first. Email contains details. Your calls may actually have shorter info because your emails have already conveyed stuff. But because the email conveyed stuff, if someone could not attend, they still have access to the information because they received an email. Now, this was the employer aspect. Look at the employee aspect. The whole world is open to you now. Compared to pre-COVID scenario, there are a large number of organizations which are offering remote jobs now. Hunt for them, look for them. If your local companies are not paying you, look outside. Demand that the organization give you remote work. Demand that the organization gives you sane working hours. I am sick and tired of people actually working more than 8 hours, 9 hours. I've seen this obsession where people are like, hey, I want to work 12 hours, I want to work 20 hours, I want to work X number of hours. I'm super workaholic. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not a long-term sustainable thing to be a workaholic. You would have a crash, and then it will take years to recover from it. Take it from someone who has been on that point. It takes years to recover from that. So demand for sane working hours, demand for remote work. If you don't demand for it, the organizations would do whatever is going on. And from the organization points, try and figure out how you can actually give people a comfortable life. A successful organization can have comfortably living people doing 9 to 5 jobs. You just need to balance things out. And that balance is not going to be easy, neither for employee side nor for employer side. There are so many ingrained biases that we deal with. It's not going to be easy. But if you start towards that journey, you will reach somewhere. And that's what I'm basically proposing right now. Now, as we move towards the end of the presentations, I have 2 pointers around attackers and defenders. First, I'm going to talk about attackers, then I'll talk about defenders. As attackers, we have this fancy about doing the most cutting edge stuff, doing the most emerging technology related work. Everything is way too complicated for us. We are very much excited about finding a 5-step SQL injection or a 4-step process to actually extract a token via SSRF in an internal application, which is not exposed publicly, but we found a way to integrate a URL which caused the leakage in a PDF file. And then we did a OCR and did a bunch of mumbo jumbo and got access. A lot of you might relate to the scenarios that I've drawn. But what actually happens is very accurately depicted in this XKCD picture that you see. On one side, they're talking about how people think the attack works. A person goes to a house in USA, breaches the house, finds the passwords, and then they can do a bunch of things. What actually happens, someone leaks passwords on one website. And they're like, okay, yeah, let's take those credentials. Let's pass them on to another application and see if the same credential works. Security world is not that complicated when you look at it from that angle. And this is where my 2 cents to attackers. anyone who's being in the offensive side of equation, learn the emerging stuff. Be focused on it. It is important that you are aware of what is going on. I consider cloud as emerging technology because hell, even the vendors don't know what they are doing. And we see constantly vendors also getting stuck in security vulnerabilities. So cloud is a space where there's so much to explore, so many new things coming up every day. That's an easy area to explore. Try and look at AI ML. There are so many use cases where we as an attacker can actually use AI ML and get better work done. Look at it from an angle how it can help you. Instead of saying, hey, that's something I don't want to touch, look at it and see what you can get out of it. Look at blockchains. Look at Web3, the new buzzword that are there in the world. If you have paid attention, I said blockchain, I said Web3, I did not said cryptocurrencies. Don't invest time in learning how to do trade on cryptocurrencies. That's not important. It can make you money, but that's not important. What is important is how blockchains operate, how Web3 works, how cryptocurrency trade works is important, but that'll be over blockchains or other similar environments. So learn the technologies, be aware of what is the emerging technology. But at the same time, don't forget the old. You know what? IBM still sells mainframes and they still earn heavy revenue from mainframes. PHP, a language which I think everyone you talk in the Infosec space says, hey, this should not be the language of choice. This is riddled with problems, just like people say about C. PHP still serves a large chunk of visible internet. Just like C is still the dominant language when it comes to Linux kernels and a bunch of other places. Windows AD, although Azure Active Directory and similar setups are there in existence, everyone talks about decentralized setups, not having an AD, allowing zero trust setups and whatnot. Windows AD is still in existence. Startups that are coming up now may not have these, may have focus on newer technologies, but any old organization which has existed for a couple of years would have these. And it's not easy to get rid of these setups. So don't forget the old. The old is still here. And believe me or not, compared to the newer, the old is going to get hacked much more severely and is going to cause much more problem because guess what? People who built that code base may have already retired, may not even be in the organization. And no one knows what is going on inside it. And when no one knows, what do? They don't touch it. They let it run till it stops working one day. And then they figure out what to do with it. But that basically means those are avenues where there's no patches, there's no security, there's no one looking at it, no one caring about it. And those are freeway passes for an attacker. So as much as you should focus on the emerging technologies, keep your handle on the older stuff. It's going to help. Now, when we talk about defenders, and this is where the funny aspect comes up. Although the attackers, I've done a ton of negatives about attackers, but you got to give one thing to the attackers. Attackers know how to collaborate. And that's something defenders sorely need. We need to focus our energies and work together. And when I say focus our energies, work together, I look at organizations and I can see 3 different organizations designing exact same set of security rules or security policies, security tool sets within their environment, but not exposing it out to public because they feel like this is something that I built, I'm only going to keep. Or buying anything that they could lay their eyes on, any thousands of dollars worth of blinky lights that they can find, they buy it, deploy it. That's not how security works. You can be the best set of people, but you're only going to be best till all of those people are within the organization. If the team breaks, your best is not there anymore. Try and build tools build setups in a collaborative manner. Now, this is where my biggest sort of pet peeve comes with organizations. Everyone wants to use third party tools, everyone wants to use open source stuff, everyone wants to use stuff that someone else has built. No one wants to sponsor them, no one wants to support them, no one wants their own employees to contribute back to those code bases. And that's got to change. If you actually want good for that particular software, if you feel that is an important piece of equation, back it up. Don't just say that it's good, back it up by putting money where your mouth is. Support the developers. And this is where things like OpenSSF have come up, which are trying to help. There are a bunch of other initiatives that are coming up, and those initiatives are the need of an hour. Now, we also have, like I've mentioned a couple of names here, attack, defend. These are MITRE frameworks which are around what are the attack methodologies people do, what kind of defense methodologies are in existence which people can apply. And this is where defenders need to openly contribute and support these setups. When you support these setups, when you put things out, that's when you're helping the entire world in one shot. Just like Sigma. Sigma is a common rule set for SIEMs, a common language which all SIEMs should ideally understand. And rules can be written in that language, which helps everyone attack a certain set of attacks. Now, collaboration at this level is important. If you don't do this, you remain in your own silo. You are as good as the set of team that you have, but you're not growing much beyond that. And this is where a very interesting example can be taken in the form of Metasploit. Metasploit has started because someone thought that it is not a good idea to write things every time by hand. And the attackers appreciated that effort, went ahead and contributed to it. The product got sold to another company, and they kept it open source. We still have a large number of attackers actually contributing to that project on a daily basis. And the project is continuously growing. A similar concrete collaborative effort is required in defense on an ongoing basis. Now, there's a reference that I've given at the bottom, which is the GitHubification of Infosec. It's an interesting article, talks about a bunch of these things and some things that were there at that time, not right now. But that's a good article that everyone should read about. Now, while I'm talking about all of this, we're talking about defenders who basically help protect against attacks, who basically help stop the attack. Remember, there are going to be firefighters who are there to stop the fire. But you also have to start finding out people who don't let the fire start. If there is someone who is ensuring that proper precautions are taken in place so that the fire does not start in the first place, they also need their due credit. And it's up to the managers, it's up to the organizations to appreciate the efforts that go in. Don't just map your matrix around the fact that, hey, this person helped us defend against 5 attacks. Yes, those were active attacks. Why were they active? Why were they not stopped even before the attack started? Was it a brute force? Was it a 0-day? Was it something that was known to you? If it was known to you, why was an action not taken? If someone took that action, those are the people that should be appreciated also. And now, this is an important piece of advice for the defenders. Take care of yourself. And when I say that, you got to understand this. Information security war is a never-ending war. There will always be something or the other coming in every single day. You cannot go from battle to battle to battle to battle to battle. You have to take pauses. You have to take care of yourself. If you're not at your 100%, you cannot secure the environment. So don't just focus on a single battle or a single instance. Focus on the bigger picture. This is going to be there. Take care of yourself. It's very important. If you are feeling burnt out, if you're feeling someone who needs support, Be vocal about it, ask about it. Now, the interesting aspect is we've kind of given up on having 100% security. And I think that started way back. No one claims that they are 100% secure. Everyone expects the breaches are going to happen. But yet, we only focus on prevention. Detection and containment is where the focus should be. Anomalies that happen in the network, how you can contain if an attacker gets inside the network, is what you got to focus on. Assume a breach will happen. How do you handle stuff if a breach has happened? How do you contain the attacker? Think in that direction. And this is one last nugget for defenders. You got to understand attackers don't play by the rules, but they play in your playground. You are the ones setting the playground. If you set the playground, they will have to play on that playground. So defenders can actually have an upper hand if you are in that position where you're defining your playground. I think that's a couple of things that I've given some thoughts, some suggestions, some insights from my own experience. And I'm not saying everything from my own experience itself. I'm standing on shoulders of giants. These are a couple of references which I would definitely suggest people to look around and have a view of. Amanda Russo, also known as Malware Unicorn, she did a Black Hat USA 2019 keynote uh, where she talked about red and blue and how things change between the two. Uh, Halvo Flake did keynote in Black Hat Asia 2017, why we are not building a defendable internet. And he had his own set of points around how we have failed in building a secure internet. We have Harun Mir, who did a talk called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that's again a very in-depth discussion around how the world has evolved. Somil Shah, our fellow Indian, actually did a talk at NalCon 2014, 12 years and Baker's Dozen. And he talked about trends, how things have been, how things are, and where things are going. All of these are interesting presentations that you should go ahead and have a look at. Along with that, Null community, Garage for Hackers, those have been my sources of learning for many, many years. And it's not just that. When you are in infosec space, you connect with communities, you connect with individuals, and with each discussion, you get a new thought. And with each thought, there is a whole thinking pattern that goes in. And whatever I've talked about in the entire slide deck is based on all of those interactions combined. With that, I think I would conclude my keynote. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much, Anand, for sharing the wonderful insight. It was really, really amazing to have you with us and sharing such great insights. And hopefully, we will see you next year as well in our future conferences, future initiatives that we do, and such a valuable advice around burnouts, taking care of yourself, and so much more. Thank you for all that you do for the community. Thank you. Thanks for joining
Thanks
us
a lot.
today.
Have a nice day.
Take care.